Razgatlioglu with 3 poles to his name in 2024. Pole sitter at Barcelona, Misano, Donington Park, all venues where he'd never been on pole before this season. This is his old sparring partner, the Grandmaster himself, Jonathan Rea, making his way down pit lane. And that's good news for Rea. Haven't seen signs of Michael Vander Mark as yet, but Rea is able to return to the fray with 4 minutes remaining in Superpole.
4 minutes, so you've got a 1 minute 30-second lap. So for Jonathan Rea, he's probably going to come around with enough time for 2 flying laps at the end of this session. And for Rea, it'll be about trying to get in 1 banker and then 1 banzai lap, but it's going to be difficult for him.
Opportunity for Andrea Iannone here to set a really strong benchmark. Remember, qualified down in P19 on the grid at Donington Park last time out. His worst Superpole effort of this season so far.
Yeah, massive head shake on the run down in towards turn 10, and that was for about 3 corners in a row for Iannone, and you're just trying to survive at that stage and keep some sort of momentum. Still on course for a personal best, but he's lost half a second to Toprak.
Well, Iannone, who, apart from that result last time out at Donington Park, has not been off the front 3 rows of the grid. Looking good to return to the front row of the grid here for the first time since the Catalonia round when he qualified in P3. At the moment sits in 3rd position once again. Obviously went out with Toprak to try and match him. Has lost half a second over the opening 3 sectors, but could leapfrog Nicolo Bulliger here and into 2nd place. As we watch Toprak Razgatlioglu, his teammate Michael Vander Mark making his way round the track. So like Jonathan Rea after his earlier spill, he has made his way onto the circuit. We watch Toprak Razgatlioglu exiting the final turn, trying to lower his benchmark, a 1 minute 30.340, his previous flying lap, and it's a 1 minute 30.064, and another sensational effort from Razgatlioglu that draws a round of applause from the BMW pit box. Alex Lowe's here moves himself up onto the front row of the grid, a 1 minute 30.758, watched eagerly there by Perariba, because there's nothing between the riders further down the order, and plenty who might hope to make an impression on that front row of the grid. Garrett Gerloff's just moved up into P6. Great effort there from Gerloff, displaced by Alvaro Bautista, who's gone up into P5. Michael Ruben Rinaldi briefly improves, but other riders around him now making progress. There's just 0.2 of a second from Danilo Petrucci at the moment in P5, all the way down to Scott Redding in P10, and there's not much behind him to the likes of Sam Lowes and Remy Gardner either. And watch for this lap coming in here from Remy Gardner. He's making his way through the final sector, currently down in P12. He's generally been a much better qualifier than that this season, hasn't been outside of the top 10 positions in Superpole in 2024, and there's at least a chance here to move on to the 2nd row of the grid for Remy Gardner, the number 87, the Australian, off the final turn. 1 minute 50 still to go, and he crosses the line P4, 1 minute 30.889, so only just over a 1/10 of a second behind Alex Lowe's, but it is the 2nd row of the grid as things stand for Remy Gardner. Next man to watch with 1.5 minutes remaining in Superpole, probably Danilo Petrucci here, making his way through the 3rd sector at present, as Michael Vander Mark and Jonathan Rea get up and running on their first flying laps of the session.
Yeah, this is a lap time. It's going to do nothing for Jonathan Rea, really. Might move him up ahead of the MIE bikes, but not too much more than that. It's about his last lap in the session to see if he's able to just grab something from this session.
Jonathan Rea then, who made a really important breakthrough in Superpole at Donington Park last time out. Remember, he was our pole sitter after the wet Superpole at the Dutch round, but other than that, it's been once on the 4th row, twice on the 5th row before his P8 effort at the UK round last time out, and Jonathan Rea will certainly want to keep his recent upward trend here. First flying lap out, he's got a time on the board, now builds himself up for the big one with 1 lap remaining for Jonathan Rea.
On the 2nd flying lap, though, it's gone away from a lot of riders. Petrucci ended up losing a lot of time in the 2nd half of the lap. This is Vander Mark coming through to the end of the lap. Might move himself up onto the 5th row of the grid, but not where Mikey needs to be.
First flying lap then for Michael Vander Mark. He will get 1 more with 30 seconds remaining. He crosses the line, and Vander Mark goes P15. So in the end, squeezes on to that 5th row of the grid. And a big moment then back into turn 1. He commits to it to keep it on the track because he needs this lap here to try and make some progress from all the way down in 15th place.
Yeah, job's done for Vander Mark there, though. It's going to be P15 and 1.4 seconds off. So only 0.4 of a second off the likes of Gerloff and Redding in front of him, with only the 1 flying lap after that crash. So not bad damage limitation that from Mike, even if it's on the 5th row.
Jonathan Ray is the only rider really who's going to go for another lap here. He's 0.7 of a second down after 2 completed sectors. This is your pole sitter, Toprak Razgatlioglu, 1 minute 30.064. Stunning pace from him once again, but it's Ray making his way through the final sector. At the moment down in P22. He needs to get here as high up the order as possible, but at the moment tracking in line to move on to the 5th row of the grid. Hardly inspirational for Most's first ever pole sitter. The pole sitter from the 2021 Czech round crosses the line, and it's only P15 in Superpole here in Most for 2024 for the former world champion.
Yeah, and for Jonathan, we'll see if he's able to make a start in race 1 and give himself some chance of being able to come away with a decent finish, but not what he needed after that crash at the start of the session.
5th on the grid here last season, Jonathan Ray down in P15 in 2024. One more flying lap that we might get here in the latter stages. Nicolo Bulliger, P5 at present, less than 1/10 of a second down on Remy Gardner. And if he can find 2/10 of a second, then he'll challenge the likes of Iannone and Lowe's on the front row of the grid. And it's not a bad effort after 3 completed sectors here.
Just for Bulliger as well in that final sector. He is very strong in the last sector, but only matching the kind of times of Lowe's and Gardner in the final sector, so to be able to make that jump he needs to find an extra 1/10 of a second.
Nicolo Bulliger, pole sitter here in Supersport last season by a margin of 4/10 of a second, crosses the line. He does make up 1 place, but he is still 1/10 of a second behind Alex Lowe, so it'll be the 2nd row of the grid for Nicolo Bulliger, the first time in the Superbike World Championship that he's qualified outside of the top 2.
Yeah, and for Bulliger it's going to be one of those things for him where here in Moss, such a complicated track to be able to get up to speed, and listening to what he's been saying over the course of the weekend, he has said that it's one of those places where maybe you always feel that you need those extra few laps, the extra session, but he's up there in the 2nd row of the grid. He's a full row ahead of his teammate Alvaro Bautista, so Alvaro a second off the pace, but 0.3 of a second off Iannone's fastest Ducati time, and looking ahead to Iannone and Bulliger and Petrucci on the grid. Only the 4th Ducati rider, Alvaro Bautista.